1. The disappearance of Steve Damman. Steve Damman was 2 years old when his mother Marilyn took him and his 7-month-old sister Pamela to the grocery store on Long Island in New York on Halloween of 1955. The store was just a block and a half from the Damman family home. While she went shopping, Marilyn let Stephen wait outside the store with his sister, who was inside of a carriage. When she came back out, they were gone. Pamela was found in her carriage nearby by a family friend, but Stephen was never seen again. The Damman family eventually moved to the Midwest, and Marilyn and the children's father, Jerry, later divorced. Leads have been scarce. Although the family received a series of ransom letters asking for large sums of money in return for Stephen's safety in the month following his disappearance, these were later discovered to be the work of an opportunist, not Stephen's actual abductor. Additionally, it was at one time proposed that Stephen might be the boy in the box, the remains of a child that were discovered in a cardboard box in Philadelphia 2 years after Stephen's disappearance. However, although both boys had blonde hair and blue eyes and had similar scars, their footprints did not match, and the boy in the box did not have evidence of a healed fracture on his left arm, something Stephen did have. Forensic tests confirmed in 2003 that the boy in the box is not related to the Damman family. In 2009, a man named John Barnes underwent DNA testing. He suspected that he may have been Steven Damman. However, it was found that he and Pamela Damman, now Pamela Damman Horn, did not share the same mother. As such, Barnes is not likely to be the Steven Damman. The boy's fate has never been satisfactorily determined. It's possible that an adult Steven Damman might be living another life somewhere under a different identity, unaware that he was once taken from his real family. However, his whereabouts continue to remain unknown. 2. The murder of Nima Lewis Carter. After placing their daughter, 19-month-old Nima Lewis Carter, in her crib on Halloween night in 1977 in Lawton, Oklahoma, George and Rose Carter awoke the next morning to discover she was gone. They frantically searched for signs of an intruder, but found nothing. Shockingly, the house was still locked. It wasn't until a month later that police found the infant's body in a refrigerator in an old abandoned house. The official cause of death was asphyxiation. Just a month after Nima was born, in April of 1976, twin girls named Mary Elizabeth and Augustine Jacqueline, also known as Tina, Carpenter, were abducted, also from Lawton, Oklahoma. The twins were in their grandparents' home, watching a television show, when they suddenly vanished, snatched in the middle of the day. The twins, only 3 years old, were found 2 days later, also in an abandoned house, locked inside of a refrigerator. Thankfully, Tina lived, but tragically, Mary was not so lucky and died of asphyxiation. Tina later testified that Jacqueline Robideau had been the one to lead them away and shut them in the refrigerator. However, the child's age made her testimony unreliable, and there wasn't enough corroborating evidence to file charges at the time. Jacqueline Robideau eventually became a babysitter for Nima Lewis Carter. She was an obvious suspect after Nima's murder, but once again, there was no evidence to implicate her. Years later, Robideau was finally charged with Mary Carpenter's murder and given a life sentence. She died in prison of liver cancer in 2005, but never admitted to the still unsolved murder of Nima Lewis Carter. 3. The death of the Key West newborn. On the morning of October 31st, 2004, a housekeeper at the Hilton Resort and Marina in Key West, Florida, found the body of a dead baby girl in the ladies' room trash can. The child still had the umbilical cord and placenta attached to her body, indicating that someone recently gave birth to this girl and decided to just dump her in the trash. Police believed the pregnant woman, her boyfriend, and 2 male friends entered the Hilton Resort and Marina at around 1 a.m. on Halloween. The pregnant woman entered the ladies' room, located on the 2nd floor of the hotel. The The restroom is in an isolated area of the hotel, away from the guest rooms, but not far from the hotel's ballrooms, which were empty that night. At around 1:55 a.m., another woman entered the Hilton's bathrooms and heard a woman moaning. She asked the moaning woman if she needed help, and she replied no. The woman left the bathroom and asked the 3 men standing outside the ladies' room if they knew the moaning woman inside the restroom. According to the female witness, one of the men spoke up and said he was her boyfriend. The boyfriend reportedly called out to his girlfriend by the name of either Samantha or Sonia, and the woman in the bathroom replied that she was okay. The witness left the Hilton, and about 30 minutes later, the hotel's security guard was doing his rounds and saw the 3 men standing outside of the bathroom. The guard told detectives that he had asked the 3 men if everything was all right. They said it was. The security guard also witnessed the woman, who had been moaning in the bathroom, leave the restroom clutching her belly. The security guard was told the woman was sick from partying at Fantasy Fest. The 3 men and 1 woman left the hotel at 2:30 a.m. The female witness described the boyfriend as a white male in his late 20s, at about 5'7" to 5'8", medium build with short, spiky dark hair. She said he was clean-shaven, except for some slight hair growth on his face. The boyfriend was well-dressed, wearing a black t-shirt, brown belt, and blue jeans. She said he looked well-groomed and nicely dressed compared to the 2 friends he was standing with. The security guard got a good look at the woman, the possible mother of the baby. He told police she was a white female in her late teens or early 20s. She was light-skinned with shoulder-length, highlighted brown or blonde hair. She was short, about 5 foot to 5'3", very slender, approximately 120 to 130 pounds, and was wearing a white baggy t-shirt and shorts or a skirt. She would have been about 32 to 35 weeks pregnant. Police believe the couple may have been from Florida. Surveillance video from Fat Tuesday was too blurry to help. The DNA profiles, blood samples, and fingerprints were entered into state and national crime databases. They even were entered into an international Interpol database and in some civilian databases, such as the ones that keep prints from gun buyers. But the mother and the 3 men have yet to be identified. 4. Kurt Sova. On October 28, 1981, 17-year-old Kurt departed for a Halloween party at a duplex. Guests later commented that he had been drinking Everclear, the strongest drink on the market and illegal in many parts of the United States. The news surprised his friends and family, as they did not know him to be a hardened drinker. One guest later said that he took an intoxicated Kurt outdoors for some fresh air, leaving him hanging on to the chain-link fence nearby. When guests returned shortly with Kurt's jacket, he had vanished. When Kurt wasn't home by Saturday morning, his parents began calling his friends. Kurt's father, Ken, searched for him around the neighborhood. There was no sign of Kurt. On Sunday, the Sovas registered Kurt as a missing person with the police. On Sunday afternoon, his mother Dorothy learned that Kurt had been at a party at a duplex less than 2 miles from where the Sovas lived. When his mother later came looking for him, the tenant who rented the duplex, named Susan, stated that she had never seen him, nor had she hosted a party. But a pizza delivery man contradicted Susan. He stated that there had been a party at the duplex on Friday night. Dorothy contradicted Susan again, and this time she admitted Kurt had been there. Susan also said that more than a dozen people had dropped by. Some of them were older than Kurt, and most of them were people he had never met. His parents papered the neighborhoods and local businesses with leaflets looking for him. One such business was a record store, which was visited by a strange man who told the owner that it was fruitless to have the leaflet of Kurt, and remarked, "Might as well take it down, he's going to be dead in a couple of days." A sighting of Kurt came from a schoolmate of his who was en route to a job interview. The man was driving and saw him head towards a van with people who were not native to Newbro Heights. He also reported hearing Kurt calling out, "Hey, Franco!" Unfortunately, he did not suspect anything out of the ordinary, as he was unaware of Kurt's status as a missing person at the time of this occurrence. The tenant of the duplex, Susan, later contacted Kurt's mother, stating that Kurt had slept on a cot in her basement. She was reluctant to believe her on the basis of her multiple lies, but Kurt's father inspected the basement. He did not find him in there, nor any of his personal belongings, but he did find a cot which looked like it had been recently used. 6 days after the party, 3 little boys were exploring a ravine near the Sova residence. They found Kurt's body. He was wearing a bright yellow t-shirt, which stood out from the natural tones of the ground. He was also barefoot. Police could not find any signs of assault. His body suffered no injuries except for a few minor scrapes and bruises as a result of being barefoot. 1 tennis shoe was found in a nearby pile of rocks. The other shoe was missing. The cause of Kurt's death could not be determined. Coroners later concluded he had died naturally, but that is not accepted by his family. Some believe that his death may be related to that of another boy from the local area, 13-year-old Eugene Kevitt, in the same neighborhood as the Sovas, and whom Kurt had been acquainted with. Interestingly, he was also found barefoot, and his right shoe was never found. The authorities wanted to identify a man named Franco, who Kurt had been hanging out with in the days before the party. It is possible, but not determined, that he is the same person in the record store who predicted Kurt would be found dead. On the same day of the discovery of Kurt's body, the record store owner, who had earlier been told the search for Kurt was pointless by a mysterious man, was visited again by a man who was later confirmed to be named Franco. He gave her a bouquet of flowers with a card that read, "Roses are red, the sky is blue. They found him dead, and they will find you too." She felt sufficiently intimidated by this gesture and reported it to police, who arrested and interrogated Franco. Police determined that he was mentally and emotionally disturbed, but ruled him out as a suspect in Kurt's death. After his release from police custody, he left Newbro Heights. He has not been seen since. Both Kurt's parents are now deceased. Kurt's father, Kenneth, died in 2001, and Dorothy died in 2014, without hearing any new info on the case. 5. David Stone. David Stone was a 29-year-old successful stock market analyst from La Jolla, California, who was deep into the New Age movement as he sought spiritual guidance. However, a few days before Halloween of 1988, David left his home when a heated argument with a party guest turned violent, something that those close to Stone say was completely out of character. Stone said he would return in a few days. According to Deputy Sheriff Bill Cavalier, the investigating officer, on the morning of Halloween 1988, he walked into the desert 145 miles east of Tucson, Arizona. At around dawn, a farmer spotted David walking along a dirt road. The farmer briefly chatted with him, as it was seldom he saw tourists in the remote parts of Arizona. David told the farmer that he was looking for the beast. Throughout the day, several local residents had seen David walking around the desert. He was acting strangely, talking to himself, and walking through rough terrain. 5 days later, his car was found abandoned along a desolate stretch of New Mexico Highway 80, 14 miles south of Road Forks, New Mexico. David's family believe that he went on a vision quest, which is common among people in the New Age movement. In this quest, the person goes on a journey to learn more about him or herself. It was discovered that David had left several mysterious clues after he vanished. These clues appeared to relate to the New Age movement. First, he had left his car nearby pyramid-shaped mountains, and pyramids were important symbols in the movement. As a search for him began, his trail headed northwest from his car towards Granite Peak. Searchers found a pyramid of rocks surrounded by a triangle. On the next day of searching, another pyramid was found, and it was next to David's watch and 2 quarters. 3 miles to the north, searchers found a string of numbers written in the sand. They realized the series of numbers were from the Fibonacci sequence, which are often used by engineers and stock market analysts. However, instead of 21 ending the sequence, David had mistakenly written 18. It may have been a way of David leaving a cryptic message, as when he was a college football player, he owned the number 18 jersey. However, as David's car was found close to the number 18 mile marker on Highway 80, investigators think it may have been a coded distress signal. Bloodhounds tracked David's scent back to Highway 80. However, they stopped at a highway intersection with Interstate 10, which was 13 miles north of where his car was found. While looking through items in his car, his parents found a strange business card in a pocketbook Bible. It belonged to a man named Tony Ballesteros. Ballesteros was interrogated by police, but claims he never met David. Ballesteros was camping with friends, and it was likely the business card fell out of his pocket onto the ground, and it was claimed by David while he briefly crossed through the campground on his excursion. David's parents also found a strange note, which read, "They think the word is in the safe. 6 knives in Rob's room. Use buys your tea and use take your chances. Halloween." Halloween just happened to be the day that David vanished. In February of 1992, 2 hikers discovered David's remains in the desert near Granite Gap, New Mexico. This is the same area where he left behind several clues before he vanished. Although police have been unable to determine when, how, or why he died, there was no evidence of foul play in his death. While some believe that David may have been unlucky enough to encounter drug smugglers who murdered him, as the New Mexico backcountry is a choice location for smuggling, and civilians have been murdered to protect shipments, police have chalked up David's death to dehydration and prolonged exposure to the outdoors, also known as death by misadventure. To this day, nobody knows what happened to him or why he acted so strangely before he disappeared.